If you want to enter this mall after midnight, you must follow our rules. Otherwise, you may not survive. This place has a story. Every place has its own story, and this place is the same. Even in the middle of the day, it may look like an ordinary grocery store, where foreigners go to buy goods at their own discretion. But this mall has a very strict security system. At 1:30 p.m., the security guard at the mall will not allow anyone who does not have an employee card to enter the mall. Then all customers who are still in the mall will be invited to leave the mall before 8 p.m. And all employees will have 30 minutes to leave the mall. At 10 p.m., the security guard in charge of each zone of the mall will check every nook and cranny of the area in charge, until you are sure that no one is stuck in the mall. Then all security guards will gather at the main door of the mall at 3:30 p.m. to make sure that all security guards have returned from checking. Then all security guards will be at the main door for another 15 minutes, before all security guards leave the mall at 10:45 p.m. And the main door will close at 10 p.m. with 2 security guards in the middle control room, which stands out from the mall. Do the job of controlling the security system in the mall, which will take care of everything during the night. But the mistake can always happen, and no one knows when it will happen. Chapter 1. The pressure plate that was attached. Every place has its own story, and this place is the same. There are strange stories in the field of employees and customers. Every day after 10 p.m., there will be a brochure appearing on the wall of the mall, located near the main exit door, which the brochure will disappear at 6 a.m. There are only security guards at night to know if the rumor is true. Nelson secretly laughed a little after reading the rumor on the internet. Of course, because who is in the mall after midnight? No one can go out. A middle-aged man in a security guard uniform, sitting on the back of an old chair, he picked up his cell phone and pressed it. On the table of Nelson, there is a piece of paper covered with a good piece of plastic, with the head of the paper clearly stated. Press to be in the mall after midnight. The paper contains the following information. Rule 1. The exit door of every mall will close and lock automatically at 10:15 p.m. except the main exit door, which will close and lock automatically at 10:45 p.m. So no matter what happens, you have to get out of the mall before 10:45 p.m. Otherwise, you will not be able to get out of the mall until 6 a.m. Rule 2. Pay attention and follow the following rules strictly, because it is the only thing that keeps you alive. Rule 3. At midnight, all the lights in the mall will go out automatically. The only light that remains is the light from the flashlight in the mall. As soon as the light goes out, when the light goes out, it is a signal for you to prepare. Rule 4. At 12:30 p.m., the speaker for the sound announcement on the left, there will be a strange sound. Let you close your eyes while the sound is loud, and do not open your eyes. Rule 5. From Rule 4, if you hear another loud sound, whether it will be soft or loud, you must not move at all until you are sure that the sound is gone. Rule 6. Events in Rule 4 and 5. There is a chance to happen again at midnight until 3 a.m. by happening less than 2 minutes, and will not occur within 45 minutes. Rule 7. You can walk to any zone in the mall, except in every movie theater zone. Normally, the door of every movie theater will be tightly locked. But if any theater is not locked, let you hurry to pick up the yellow paper at the counter to hang at the door of the movie theater as soon as possible. But if you go and find that the door of the movie theater is open, let you use the knife at the counter to sell popcorn in order to hide yourself. Believe me, this is the best way out. Rule 8. During 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. it will be the time for you to rest. During this time, almost no abnormal events occur, except if it happens outside the mall. You have to go straight to the fresh goods section and open the freezer for frozen meat. And do not look at what is in there, and you have to open it before 2 a.m. Rule 9. After 2 a.m. if there is a shadow of anything, Do not greet or answer at all. The only friend you can trust tonight. There is only Uncle Nelson in the safety room. Rule 10. At 2:30 a.m., let you turn on your mobile phone. The shadow that appears around you will not harm you. But if they come in, let you speed up the light. If the light is brighter, they can't do anything to you. Rule 11. At 3 a.m., you have to go up to the second floor of the mall in the furniture zone and hide in a large pink bed, and you can sneak under the blanket, and something in the shadow will not smell you, which will disappear at 3:30 a.m. Rule 12. When you are sure that you do everything according to the rule, let you go back and wait at the main door. But there is a condition that you have to go down to the first floor before 4 a.m. Otherwise, you will not be able to return to the dimension you left. Rule 13. This is the last rule. If you can still make it to this point, you have to leave a part of your body in this mall to exchange and atone for your sins, and otherwise it will be taken back from you. Nelson, who is secretly watching Facebook. Because for 4 years he has been a security guard, he never made a mistake before, and no one has ever fallen into the mall at midnight. But everything has to change. When a young man wants to try something by sneaking into the mall through the ventilation channel to make a ghost hunting clip in this mall, which is the beginning of all the horror. Chapter 2. The Beginning. The young man sneaked into the mall through the ventilation channel at 5 p.m. before falling into the section of the second floor, which is from 4:30 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. is when I have to go out and change in order to be able to take care of the security of the mall all night without falling asleep. So now Uncle Nelson is not in front of the monitor, making no one see that the young man has entered the mall. Jack introduced his phone to the selfie stick and prepared to do a live broadcast. This live broadcast must be very loud, Jack thought before walking around the area that he had just fallen from the ventilation channel. Around Jack now, there is only a faint light from the open fire, but it is enough to make Jack able to look around. Jack decided to walk back and start a live broadcast, live in front of the main door of the mall. Jack walked down the escalator that is now closed, surrounded by darkness and an atmosphere of confusion. I put the product in front of me. All the points that are set up like that mean that when it's time for the shop's staff to be kicked out of the mall immediately, without even having time to organize the products in order, it means that they probably came to buy the products in the morning. Jack thought to himself as he looked around the darkness cave. Although Jack will come to this mall with full of encouragement, but it doesn't stop Jack from feeling scared anyway. Every time Jack walks through the dark floor, he feels like he has many eyes watching him from a dark spot. Jack, who began to feel dizzy, hurriedly walked to the main door as soon as possible. But the feeling of fear made Jack turn back to look. Everything is still the same. In the darkness, there is only silence. But Jack's subconsciousness is warning him that there must be something in that darkness. He didn't think of it himself. After calming down, Jack decided to continue walking to the main door. But after he turned back for a while, the products on the first floor fell down by themselves. Jack panicked and hurriedly turned back to look in shock, but he didn't find anything but a bottle that came out of the darkness and hit the tip of his feet lightly. Jack hurriedly pulled out his feet and moved back a little, with a face that did not look good, before he gathered his courage to ask, "Who's there?" But even if he asked that question, what Jack got back was only silence. Before he turned back and thought, how could anyone be in the department store right now? Shortly before, there was a loud noise from behind Jack again. This time, Jack didn't think to turn back and ask again. His legs seemed to run out automatically according to his subconsciousness. Before the boy ran forward to the main door, Jack used both hands to shake the metal cage that the door was still open. He blamed himself for not being able to get into this department store. Then Jack thought that the main door had a CCTV. Jack hurriedly jumped in front of the camera and placed the metal cage in the security room to see him through the monitor, so that he could help him out. But Jack didn't know that the metal cage was stretched out, so no one could see him through the monitor. And tonight the cage had to be in the same room as the sick doll. So now there was no one in the cage room to help Jack. While Jack was jumping in the car, a black shadow quickly passed Jack's face, along with the coldness that made his spine shiver. Jack was frozen and didn't know what to do. The boy just sat down and prayed next to the metal cage. Before he realized that the story of this department store would start at midnight, Jack quickly checked the time on his phone, which indicated that it was 5:14 p.m. It means that something bad might want to tease Jack, because the real story would start at midnight. Chapter 3. Do as prescribed, Mr. Nelson, who returned to the security room after stretching the cable. To prepare for duty, as soon as he put the cable in the middle and sat down with the old cable chair, Mr. Nelson almost blinked his eyes, because now a picture of a young boy is appearing on the monitor, who is sitting and praying at the metal cage in the mall. Nelson, who has been working as a security guard for many years, has never seen such an event before. Nelson, who saw Jack's picture, who was crying and praying in a foreign language, quickly turned on the signal on the cable to get in touch with the boy who was stuck in the mall alone. "Young man, what are you doing in there?" The voice of Nelson coming out of the speaker destroyed the silence. Jack quickly wiped his tears and looked for the source of the sound immediately before he saw the speaker in the CCTV. That was stuck on a tree branch not far from the mountain. "Help me, anyone, help me." Jack shook his arms both sides in front of the CCTV before the sound of the sound came out from a dark corner behind the mountain. Some of us are in the dark, and some of us don't want to play with them, or don't want to be the behavior of a hunter who likes to play with his prey. "Young man, I can't hear you, but now let's go pick up the paper near the metal cage," Nelson ordered seriously. Jack, who heard that, turned his back and looked into the little darkness before rushing to pick up the paper as Nelson ordered. "Uncle, can you take me out?" Jack shouted loudly, even though the person at the end of the voice told him that he didn't hear Jack's voice. "Remember to press every button on that paper, kid, because it's your only way out." The voice of Nelson came out of the speaker before there was a little noise. "In the meantime, I will contact the person in power to tell you what to do. Finally, follow the rule." Nelson couldn't finish his sentence in time, and the noise was getting louder. Some of us don't want the two of them to contact each other anymore. Jack, who had no choice, had to read the rules carefully. Cut back to Nelson, who, after informing Jack, hurried to the mall's big office. Because according to the work rules, if this happens, the security guard must report to the manager of the mall immediately. "Hello, Acli Corporation. Glad to help you, sir." The voice of a middle-aged woman was heard through the phone. "I want to contact the president immediately," Nelson said, and hurriedly opened the emergency confirmation code. "Emergency code 5B-6A. Nelson said in a hurry. The other party immediately heard the code that Nelson said and stood still for a while, before the woman quickly regained consciousness and replied to Nelson immediately. "We will contact the manager immediately. Please wait a moment." The woman hung up before the sound was cut to a sound that made the listener even more confused. The manager whispered. The woman hung up in a smooth voice. The manager said, "I haven't finished yet." The other party cut the line immediately. "I know why you called, and I advise you not to do anything at all." Nelson heard and was very confused with the other party's words. "What does it mean to tell you not to do anything at all? What does it mean to tell you not to do anything at all?" Nelson asked in a confused manner. "What is your duty, Mr. Nelson?" The other party replied in a smooth voice as before. "My duty is to stay in the safety room and check the CCTV." Nelson replied, but still did not understand the meaning of the other party. You understand your duty well, Mr. Nelson, so do it. Don't let it get out of hand, the other party said in a smooth voice, while Nelson seemed to understand what the other party was going to say. But that's human life. Nelson spoke seriously. Mr. Nelson, I'll be honest with you. Our mall has a history of not being allowed to enter the mall after midnight for a long time. Do you think the people will care? What if someone died in our mall after midnight? The news will be silent in 3 days. And that young man did it himself. I don't want to make the company's shares fall more than this. It's better to let that young man die quietly. Besides, you've been working as a security guard for a long time. Young people know better than anyone else that the legend is true, so I suggest you do as I say. Better than throwing your life away, but Nelson still couldn't finish his words. The other party has already cut the line. Let Nelson think about it. Between his life and the life of a young man like Jack, which life is more important? Jack sighed, standing in front of the iron cage until it's over. Jack picks up his phone to check the time, and it's 5:57 p.m. In 3 minutes it will be midnight. Kid, remember to do as I say. The sound of the siren goes up again, before being replaced by the siren that has no place to come as before. Jack looked at his phone screen. That changed from 5:59 p.m. to midnight. As soon as midnight arrived, all the sirens disappeared. There was only silence and darkness left. Jack had a flash of light from the fluorescent light that was still on. The atmosphere was tense immediately, unparalleled for the couple. Go for it, Jack, the young man said to encourage himself before walking into the darkness. Chapter 4, The Untrustworthy Darkness. After reading the script thoroughly, Jack concluded like this: the most dangerous place according to the script is the movie theater. That doesn't let the door of the theater open. So according to Jack's plan, Jack decided to check the movie theater's door first. And in the meantime, he will gradually follow the other rules. It seems that the first rule will start at 12:30 p.m. So now there should be enough time to walk to the movie theater in time. All right, go for it. We have to make it. Jack leaned on himself and took a deep breath before turning his face to the darkness of the department store. Jack slowly walked along the dark side. The two sides were lined with shelves of various shops. Many products were left on the shelves. At the time, all employees were kicked out of the department store in time. The flashing light led Jack to the escalator. Now it doesn't work anymore. Jack slowly walked cautiously. Now Jack's surroundings are very quiet. He was quiet until he heard the sound of his heart beating. While Jack was in the middle of the escalator, the flashing light at the department store began to flicker. Along with the flickering light, Jack picked up his phone and saw that it was 12:30 p.m. Now Jack is in the middle of the escalator. After the boy walked up halfway, Jack wanted to hurry up and run before 12:30 p.m., but because the path was very dark. If you walk carelessly, you may fall down easily. The loud sound came from all the speakers of the department store, along with all the flashing lights that went out, resulting in the whole department store in the darkness. Jack closed his eyes and slowly bent his knees before he could use his hands to climb to the floor of the escalator, and began to climb the stairs to prepare to climb up to the second floor. While Jack climbed up about 2 steps, the cold feeling spread through Jack's bones until the boy fainted. Jack focused on listening to the surrounding sound, trying to focus on listening to other sounds. That may be loud and annoying. When Jack was so confident that there was no sound, the boy prepared to continue climbing. But luckily Jack hadn't moved yet, because in the split second that Jack decided to continue climbing, the boy heard a sound of wind blowing into his ears. In the rule, no matter what the sound is, do not move at all. Jack didn't know if the wind was in the rule, but to be sure, Jack chose not to risk it. Then the wind that blew gently turned into a heavy breath immediately. That loud breath echoed next to Jack's ear. along with a sound like a large footstep hitting the metal from behind Jack. The boy who closed his eyes until he was stunned, afraid not to dare to move. Jack thought to himself, imagine that the origin of that sound. What kind of shape would it be? Jack prayed for 15 minutes to pass quickly. Then the sound of something alive, even if you want to open your eyes and look, but it can't. It gradually became louder, until the quietest. There was only a loud, high-pitched sound coming out of the side speaker as before. It was so loud and annoying that Jack wanted to raise his hand to cover his ear. But the boy chose to find a way, and slowly crawled up the escalator while still closing his eyes one step at a time. When Jack crawled up to the last step of the escalator, the high-pitched sound was quieter. At the same time, Jack slowly opened his eyes, and then he met the light that gradually returned to the same brightness. The boy was still relieved when he found that he had already crawled up to the second floor of the department store. Jack looked around with concern. At first, when the store opened normally, the second floor will be the floor for selling various products, which will have a long row of shelves. Let customers ride their cars along the rows of shelves. But now Jack can only see around less than 2 meters. And the hallway of this floor is only on the walls of the department store. It means that the middle floor is very dark. It's so dark that the boy can't see anything. But if we don't have a reason to do anything in this floor right now, Jack began to look for the escalator of this floor to see where it was, so that he can go straight to the third floor, which is the location of the movie theater. Jack walked along the edges of the department store, hoping that he would walk around until he found the escalator that would take him to the third floor. The sound was like a metal pipe coming out of the darkest part of this floor. It has some aura that attracts people to explore it. Just look into the darkness. He felt a chill until the soul, before the feeling of having a magic knife at the neck pulled Jack back. The boy hurriedly turned around. What was that? Jack talked about the feeling when the teacher felt like there was some kind of water flowing out of his neck. Jack spread his hands holding his neck when the teacher slowly came out. He saw a drop of red water drop on his palm. What? Since when? That's right, Jack's neck had a scar like a twisted thread until the blood flowed out. Fortunately, the wound was not deep and life-threatening. In a moment, the blood would have stopped flowing. But what would happen if he looked into the darkness for a longer time? Jack shook his head and chased those crazy thoughts out of his head before looking at the escalator with the flashing light that was not far away. Jack hurriedly walked over without noticing that the shadow that followed him was beginning to dim on the side of Nelson, who was watching Jack through the security monitor of the room. He still couldn't figure out if he was going to help Jack or follow the boss's orders before Nelson chose to see the weather forecast that it would rain heavily tonight. Chapter 5. Help. Every action always has consequences, and it's been 50 minutes since midnight. Nelson turned to look at the clock hanging on the wall of his office and turned on the control panel switch to let the security monitor use the image of Jack, who was lurking in the mall. Nelson still couldn't figure out if he was going to help Jack, although he has been working as a security guard for many years. But there has never been a case where people have been lost in a mall like this before. At least for me, that means his death. Surrounded by nothing but the darkness that surrounds the boy, there is only the sound of metal. Jack didn't know if he was imagining it, but he felt like something was following him from behind for a while. Suddenly, Jack's consciousness quickly disappeared. The boy quickly turned around in seconds before the black shadow passed through him quickly and disappeared into the darkness. If he hadn't escaped just now, he would have been pushed down from the escalator by the black shadow. Jack took a deep breath and slowly walked down the escalator. Finally, he reached the second floor. Jack quickly checked the time to see how much time he had left. Now Jack's phone screen shows 1:40 a.m. Jack has only 20 minutes left, but luckily the second floor is a floor for selling various products. So the product floor will be set up in a long line. Make him just walk straight in. Jack can easily reach the live sales department. But now there's a new problem, because Jack's phone battery is only 20% left. Jack decided not to use his phone's flashlight, because he doesn't have to zigzag much in this floor. He should be able to cross the road by himself. Jack looked deep into the darkness in front of him. This must be the darkest part in the mall. Jack took a deep breath and spoke to himself. Normally on the first and third floors there will be flashing lights all over the floor. But on the second floor there are only flashing lights around the mall wall. It makes the middle area so dark that you can't see anything. We're just walking with our eyes closed. Jack gathered his courage and began to walk along the long path into the darkness. Although he didn't want to do it, he didn't have a choice if he still wanted to live. Now Jack has been walking for a while. Jack can't see anything. Even when Jack reached out his hand forward, Jack still couldn't see his own hand. The screams told a lot of people were talking loudly from all over the place. "What are you doing, little boy? Do you want me to help you? Are you afraid?" Those voices were coming from everywhere. We and them were gathering next to Jack's ear. The boy was so scared that he almost lost consciousness. His brain was imagining all kinds of images. Because when we close our eyes, our brains start to imagine in front of us. Jack, who couldn't take it anymore, put his hand in his pants pocket. He was about to pick up his phone and turn it on. Meanwhile, something was holding his wrist tight. We wouldn't let him take his phone out of his pocket. And "Let go of me! Let go of me!" Jack was alone in the sky, with a voice coming back. The rustling sound was still loud. Jack was unconscious. The boy started to shed tears again before he walked forward hopelessly, hoping that he would reach the grocery store in time. Jack, who hadn't been crying for a long time, cried out when he felt the force pulling him from behind, until the mountain fell to the ground. What the hell? Jack was angry. Before he could get up, he saw the light from the flashlight that was not far away, along with the grocery store in a row. What is this? Jack looked around in confusion. It seemed that when he regained consciousness, he was already here, and the rustling sound of his previous mind was gone. Jack quickly checked the time. Fortunately, it was 1:50 a.m. He arrived in time. The boy didn't know where to open the freezer, so he walked to open every freezer there, before he heard a sound like someone pulling something out of his back hand. At 2 a.m., even though Jack couldn't see, he knew that something had just passed in front of him. And it was going straight to the freezer where he had left every door open. Then the doors of each freezer banged together loudly. The noise was so loud that Jack was shocked, but after that nothing happened. So it must be a sign that he did the right thing. Jack then turned around to get ready to go back to the grocery store to wait for the next step. But the boy was extremely shocked when he saw the body of a girl. She looked about 8 to 9 years old. She was wearing an ordinary girl's skirt and holding an old teddy bear in her left hand. The girl looked at Jack with a suspicious look. Jack himself didn't know what to do, but he remembered that there was a rule that if anything happened after 2 a.m., he should pretend not to care, which Jack would do. So he continued without caring about the girl in front of him. As Jack began to walk, the girl began to follow Jack as well. It looks like she's following Jack. Now Jack is afraid that his heart will stop. But the boy still did his best not to care about her and walked on. As for the room of Nielsen, the second floor was very dark, making Nielsen unable to see Jack. So he doesn't know if Jack is dead or not. But the boy in the middle of this person can only look out of the window as the rain begins to fall less and pray that the boy is still safe. On the side of Alexia, she was also looking at Jack through the monitor that received direct signal from the mall, ready to look at the time when the watch was silent and told her what she was waiting for. But it's strange that in Alexia's camera there's only a picture of Jack walking by. and turned around to look at something like a ball. It seems that the camera cannot capture the picture of the girl following Jack. 7. Believe it or not, Jack himself walked along the edge of the second-floor wall. The reason why Jack chose to walk this way is because the wall has a strong fluorescent light. Makes Jack still able to see the way. But now the little girl that Jack is also not sure what she is or what she wants. Walking along Jack. But apart from following, she doesn't seem to be aggressive or malicious to Jack at all. But even so, the boy still doesn't lose his vigilance. The feeling of distrust is still there. Suddenly, the air conditioner in the mall went out at the same time. Jack looked around suspiciously. But it seems that the girl behind him doesn't seem to be shocked at all. The sound of the air conditioner that was always sending a sound as a friend of Jack who had to be in the middle of the darkness alone. Now it's getting quieter. The whole atmosphere returns to a daze again, and the feeling of being watched all the time is causing Jack to lose his mind until he almost goes crazy. The girl behind him looked at him with almost no reaction. In Jack's heart, he wants to go back and ask her nicely. But because of the rules like that, and if he breaks the rules just once, it means his own life. So Jack chose not to risk it. They. The dry sound that had been waiting for the water to run out for many days came from the girl behind Jack. Her words were very soft, but Jack could hear it clearly. The feeling of fear that came out along with her words. It makes Jack lose his mind. Jack turned around to look at the girl he was looking at. The girl slowly took the teddy bear in her hand and hugged it tightly with a face that showed a little fear. In the past, she has only made a still face following Jack all the time. "They are coming," the girl said in a loud voice, ready to stand and hug the teddy bear tightly. Although Jack did not understand what the girl was going to say, all the lights began to flicker along with the light that gradually faded. "What? What happened?" Jack screamed in a panic, ready to look around, so confident that all the lights were fading, which was definitely not a good thing. Jack hurriedly picked up his phone, which was about to run out of battery, and turned on the light. Along with a lot of black shadows that looked like a human face gradually appeared from the dark corners around Jack. The girl looked at those dark shadows with a little scary, sweet face. She still hugged the teddy bear tightly and stared at Jack, who was waking up cheerfully. "Yes, press number 10. Jack rushed out and held his phone tightly. Because the rule said that just turn on the light, those black shadows would do nothing to you. Those black shadows gradually increased from the darkness before slowly walking around Jack. The boy held his hand confidently and looked at those shadows that walked up close to him. Some of them just walked through the girl's body, telling them they didn't see her. But every time those shadows walked past her, the girl would show her scary, sweet face every time before looking up at Jack as usual. "Get out of the way." Jack began to speak cheerfully and saw that the black shadows were still circling closer and closer, or that he was doing something unknowingly. But Jack was sure that he had been doing the right thing all along. Cut to the other side, Nelson and Alexia, who were both looking at Jack through the CCTV as well. Now the picture on the screen that they are looking at is the picture of Jack in the middle of the circle of black shadows in front of him. Why don't they back off? Nelson was still awake while reading the rules in the office over and over again, because he was sure that Jack had done all the rules correctly, and Uncle Nelson was still trying to turn on the light to get him back to work. But it seems that no matter how many times he pressed the button, it didn't work at all. Is this guy going to end his life like this? Nelson was desperate while trying to find a way to help the boy stuck in the mall in every possible way. Without him knowing that, Alexia was also looking at his position. Cut back to Jack, who is now surrounded by the black shadows that are slowly creeping in. Now they are all less than 5 meters away from Jack. The boy standing behind the wall, wearing a cell phone to send the light around, is still awake. "Don't come in, get out of the way." Jack was still angry, while death was slowly creeping in. The boy was shaking his phone like crazy. The anxiety and fear of biting his heart was exhausted. Jack slowly closed his eyes hopelessly and waiting for the death to come in, hoping that it wouldn't hurt too much. Turn off the light. The sound of the fan was loud again. The girl slowly pointed her finger at Jack's phone. The boy had to choose whether to believe the rules or believe the mystery in front of him. But when he followed the rules, it didn't work. So let me start my own life. Jack decided to turn off the light from his phone. Meanwhile, the sound of the fan was loud from the black shadows, until Jack had to raise his hand to cover his head because the sound was very loud, before they slowly split up and walk in different directions. Jack slowly stood up and breathed out, before turning to look at the girl who came back to stare at Jack as usual, with tears in her eyes and gratitude for saving his life. On the side of Alexia, it seems that she was not at all surprised. Suddenly, Jack decided to turn off the phone light at the last moment, that her plan was about to succeed. How did that woman know that she had to turn off the phone light? Alexia complained angrily, and tore the pressure paper in her hand, even though she had already put the pressure in the pressure paper. But the boy was still able to survive. The CEO's daughter was only biting her teeth on the fancy work chair and looking at the monitor screen. 8. The car and the thief. Nelson saw that those mysterious things were slowly walking away. As soon as Jack turned off the phone light, he immediately understood that the rule that he had always believed, that it would be a place for anyone to follow who wandered into the mall late at night. In fact, it was a trap that deceived anyone to follow it to the point of death, and was hidden by the 8th rule. You are... Nelson was furious, because the only person who had the power to change the rule in the paper was Alexia. It means that all of this was Alexia's plan from the beginning. No wonder she told him to stay still. She was sure that the boy would not survive. This girl is better than you think. Nelson turned to the monitor screen in his room, because he knew that Alexia must be watching for sure. Nelson went back to calm down. Now that we don't know which rule is true, he can't help Jack anymore. The only thing that can help Jack is to encourage the boy to get out of the mall in the morning. Is that rule a lie? Jack was stunned by himself as he was walking straight to the furniture section. And now the light is back to normal, along with those faded shadows, along with the air conditioner in the mall that came back to work again. Now Jack began to watch out for the little boy who was following him behind, with the thought in his head that it means that the rule that says you can't talk may not be true, but Jack, who has just survived death, doesn't want to risk his life again. Now the boy would like to walk quietly until he reaches the furniture section, and then talk to him again. Jack walked around the mall's 2nd floor and kept looking left and right, but around him it seemed quiet and unbelievable. The darkness that at first looked scary and untrustworthy now seems to be calm and strange. Wait, am I close to home now? Jack was stunned by himself and thought that some crazy person was looking into the darkness and thought it was calm like that. Jack shook this nonsense thought out of his head, even though now it looks like there's nothing. But being conscious all the time is indispensable. The boy walked to the furniture section before going down to sit on a large pink bed. This must be the bed that Kotabu kept. Jack talked to himself as he looked around, before the girl who followed him sat down on the children's chair next to him. If you don't go into the tiger's cave, you're not a tiger, Jack thought to himself. Now I decided to try talking to him, because I've just saved his life once. I hope that when I turn to talk to him, he won't rush to strangle me. Thank you for saving my life just now. Jack turned to talk to the girl who was staring at him fearfully. The girl didn't give any special response before shaking her head. It was too late for her to know what she was looking for, and she Jack was about to ask what she was, but he decided not to ask this question because she looks like a little girl. It's not very interesting to know how she got here. What's your name? My name is Jack. I happen to be stuck in this mall. The boy turned to introduce himself to the girl as a friend. The girl still looked at Jack with a straight face as usual. Jack. His name is Rose. The girl answered with a frown, but she replied back to Jack with a brighter face than the first time when she was a little girl. Jack guessed that she was a spirit or something that had been stuck here for a while. Rose slowly got up from the child's chair that she was sitting on at first and changed to sit on the other rocking chair next to her. But it looks like that chair is a little wobbly. Rose was exhausted, but she didn't move at all. Jack, who was sitting on the bed, smiled out of the corner of his mouth with compassion before getting up from the bed and pushing the chair with a little compassion. The girl turned around and smiled at Jack as a thank you. But the time of happiness did not last long. The atmosphere was calm with a pressure that came with the sound of a crash that sounded from the escalator not far away. This might be a sign to get ready to hide under the bed. Jack slowly crawled under the wide bed so that people could sleep under it. Rose only looked at him in a confused state. Before she turned to look at something that was coming from the escalator, it looked like she understood what Jack was going to do. Instead of going to hide with Jack, she walked back to pull his leg. Jack was confused as to why she was pulling his leg, and something scary was approaching. A bait, hide," Rose said in a stammering voice before continuing with a hoarse voice. We are not baits," she said and tried to pull Jack's leg out of under the bed. Jack slowly got up and sat on the bed as usual with Rose sitting on his leg next to him. Before Jack's eyes began to see something coming out of the darkness, he turned straight to the mountains. It looked like a tall man with long iron claws. The shoes were old military shoes with metal parts on them. Every time he walked, there was a sound of metal hitting the floor for a moment, creating a lot of pressure. The hunter walked up to Jack's face with a good heart and sat still there. The hunter used his finger to poke Jack's neck, causing a small wound with blood dripping out. He slowly used his nose to smell Jack's scent in the air for a while, before turning to look at the car with a kind face. He was familiar with the car, and the hunter walked into the darkness. Jack used his hand to gently scratch his wound before turning to look at the head of the car, before breathing out because it looked like everything was going to end tonight. In just a few hours, Jack would get out of this place, but how can Jack be sure that everything is what he really thinks? 9. Whispering. If anyone is looking for me, let me know that I'm on an urgent mission. Alexia turned to her secretary, who was sitting not far from her desk. I understand. I'll give you all your schedule. The secretary whispered in her ear before Alexia walked out of the room. She hurried to the parking lot and drove out quickly. Now Nelson, who came out of his room, was looking around after the rain had stopped for a while. The night sky had only been dark for a long time. Now the moonlight has finally come out of the clouds. Nelson then walked straight to the area that is the main door of the mall. There is another layer of iron bars inside. Even now, he still can't open the iron door for Jack to come out, because the door of the mall is an automatic system that will only open at 6:15 o'clock. But at least now Nelson is very relieved because it looks like everything is over. Nelson looked at his watch, which is now 5:20 o'clock. Before looking into the mall through the window at the main door, he saw Jack sitting in front of the door alone, waving his hand back to him. Nelson also waved his hand cheerfully. Before the sound of the car was getting louder and louder, a car came to park at Nelson's garage. Before a woman got out of the car with a look that didn't seem to be in any trouble. Alexia! Nelson bit his tongue after seeing the woman in front of him who had just gotten out of the car. What's up? You have a lot of experience, Alexia said to Nelson with a voice that wasn't very interested in his wife. "What are you doing here?" Nelson asked directly. "I'm just waiting to see when the mall door opens, if this kid is really going to survive," Alexia said, ready to walk into the mall. "But no matter what, that kid has to be arrested at all costs." Alexia spoke calmly and walked to drag the chair out of Nelson's office before he sat down not far from Nelson. "Then you should catch the thing that let the human friend die." Nelson turned to Alexia. "Actually, I want to kick you out, Nelson, but I'm sure I can't find anyone to replace you, so I won't blame you for disobeying me tonight." Alexia spoke comfortably. She didn't even care about Nelson's feelings about how he would feel. "Don't worry, I'm going to quit," Nelson said with a loud voice and threw his mask to the ground in front of Alexia's eyes. "What a pity." Alexia spoke gently before bending down to pick up the mask. "Then go. I'll let you go. I've seen the work you've been doing for 4 years," she said with a cold voice and eyes. "Do you think I'm going to let you do anything to a young boy?" Nelson shook his head. "Anyway, as you wish," Alexia said and looked at his watch, which came in almost every morning. He turned back to the mall. Jack was sitting in front of the main exit of the mall, along with his cell phone watch, which indicated that it was 5:50 a.m. Before Jack's phone ran out of battery, Jack took a deep breath before looking at the car that was leaning on him tenderly. "Thank you for everything tonight." Jack spoke with the head of the car gently. "It's okay." The car turned back and got up before pulling the hair of Jack gently and put that hair on the side of the escalator. "I have to go." Jack turned to talk to the car with a happy and sad face at the same time. The car slowly got up before reaching for the teddy bear in his hand. "Are you sure?" Jack turned to ask the car again. The girl didn't answer. She nodded her head with her soft eyes. "Okay, thank you." Jack picked up the teddy bear from the car. The girl turned to give Jack a hand before she poked 2 fingers up for Jack and walked into the darkness of the mall. Jack turned to look at the car. He walked into the darkness of the mall. The sound of the metal cage slowly moved up with the bright sunlight. That poured in through the window of the mall, the bright and warm light that Jack didn't think he would ever see again was slowly getting brighter. The darkness in the mall disappeared. "Go in and catch that boy." Alexia's voice was heard along with the door of the mall that opened, along with her 2 servants who ran straight into Jack. Nelson was captured by Alexia's subordinates. "What the hell is this?" Jack was angry, trying not to let those 2 men catch him. But how can the child's strength fight the strength of both adults? While her 2 subordinates were trying to keep Jack still, Alexia slowly walked up close, because she wanted to see the face of the boy who dared to try his hand at her mall. But she had to wipe her face as soon as she saw the old doll in Jack's hand. Alexia, embarrassed, ordered her 2 subordinates to stop and tell them to let Jack go. Jack, who was waking up, didn't wait long and ran away. Alexia hurried back to the car without saying a word. 2 weeks later, after Jack escaped from the mall, Jack, who had just opened his eyes, was still confused before he found that he was sleeping in a place that was not his bedroom. Jack slowly got up and looked around before he found that he was back in the mall again. In his left hand, he was holding the car's doll, and it looked like the doll's owner's daughter had been waiting for Jack for a while. Jack, who saw the car standing not far from his feet, was confused. "What does this car mean?" Jack hurriedly checked his phone time, which indicated that it was 5:30 p.m., along with the car approaching him with a sad face. "No one can escape." The car spoke in a hurry before pointing 2 fingers up again. 2 weeks later, the car's words seemed to make Jack understand something. He slowly got up and stretched out his arms and then turned to smile at the car gently. "Will you help me tonight?" Jack asked the car gently, and the girl didn't answer anything before her face slowly fell down. Special episode. Breaking news. This morning, the head of a large company, who is the owner of a famous mall, shot himself in his own office. According to reliable sources, the CEO of this company met a young man around 4 days ago, before the incident. In the end, the young man managed to escape. After that, there was no news of the CEO's movement at all. Until this morning, his personal secretary called the police officer that she had found the CEO's body, shot himself in his own office, along with a suicide note that she thought she had written down before she committed suicide. But the police officer still didn't believe that it was a suicide. Therefore, the suicide note is an important evidence that we can't disclose to everyone, but we can only disclose the part that has been allowed by the police officer. Mom, I don't know where my son has gone. I think it is thought that Alexia may have a mental illness from PTSD of a person who has just lost his son. But this incident has been going on for 4 years, so the police officers have to do a thorough investigation to find the answer to this case, which is considered a suicide that affected the society the most in 3 months. The death of the CEO, this young woman, caused Aircry's shares to fall by 10 points within 3 hours after the police officer's announcement, which greatly affected the business of the community in this area. Jack was tired of listening to this news, so he switched channels to listen to other news before turning to look at the announcement on the 28th of October, which is the 4-week anniversary. After the day Jack left the mall successfully, it must be tired again on the 28th. Today is Mom's birthday, isn't it? The little girl is looking at the red rose with a teddy bear in her hand. The 9-year-old girl is hiding in a small box that was kept in a storage room of a mall without anyone knowing. How this girl got in, it looks like this girl's mother is also working in this mall. The little girl sneaked into the mall, hoping to surprise her mother's birthday. When people in the mall are starting to decrease, the little girl has been hiding in the small box for more than 2 hours before hearing the noise of the mall's customers and employees, who are slowly being treated as if out of the mall before 8:30 p.m. But the little girl, who has been hiding for almost 2 hours, has fallen asleep due to tiredness. Then the girl woke up without knowing how much time had passed. The little girl slowly came out of the box while it was already dark inside the mall. The little girl didn't know that her mother was at home and was very worried. She hurriedly drove back to the mall because she thought her daughter might want to surprise her birthday at work. The little girl's mother stepped on the car's accelerator as much as she could and prayed for herself to think wrongly. She hurriedly got out of the car and went straight to the security tower where the 2 security guards were working. She hurriedly ordered the 2 security guards to check all CCTVs in the mall. Finally, she was heartbroken when she saw her little daughter in the dark second floor alone. In that second, the heart of a mother was broken. The girl hurriedly ran to the back door of the mall without thinking about her life. She tried to break through the window, but couldn't until the security guards had to lock her up. One security guard felt sorry for her, so he decided to sneak into the mall to help the girl out by having the security guard take the mother to sit quietly in the security guard's room. The little girl walked unknowingly. Tears began to flow from her eyes. "Mom, where are you?" The girl cried for her mother without stopping and shed tears for a long time. "I want to go home, Mom." The girl followed the light to a terrible place. The little girl's crying and couldn't reach her mother, who was outside. The security guard who came into the mall heard the voice of the girl, who was crying for her mother, and screamed in the middle of the darkness. The security guard in a military uniform didn't wait long and hurriedly ran into the darkness with a flashlight in his hand. "Mom, Mom!" The girl cried for her mother, without stopping, until her throat was hoarse. The girl fell to the ground before the blood came down from her mouth. But the poor little girl still cried for her mother, even though her words were almost silent. The girl walked through the darkness to the third floor of the mall, in the movie theater. The girl heard a faint voice, similar to her mother's voice, coming out of the first movie theater. "Is that my mother?" The girl who was wiping out her own tears and slowly walked, while the security guard ran up to the third floor of the mall. "Mom, Mom," the little girl who was crying reached for the door of the movie theater. "Come out right now." The security guard rushed to the little girl, but it didn't seem to be in time. The door of the movie theater fell to the ground as soon as the little girl touched the wall of the door. A loud noise came out from the movie theater before the door opened with a terrible and scary scream, and then something pulled the girl's body up and plunged into the movie theater in front of the security guard's eyes. "Give me back the girl." The security guard rushed into the movie theater again before the door of the movie theater slammed back to normal, as if nothing had happened. The mother who saw this, everything passed through the CCTV and sat down on the floor, looking at the person who had lost his mind. The tears of the mother came out without her crying, which came out of her mouth even a little. The mother who sat with the mother in the wardroom was silent. Tonight there was a funeral that happened at the same time once or twice. The mother's mind that she had to see her daughter wearing a ring in front of her eyes, as if she couldn't do anything, but it was too much. In the morning, all the employees went out to look for the two missing people. They went to the first movie theater, but no one saw anything except a red rose flower and a light bulb that fell in front of the movie theater's door. Since then, the legend of this theater has been told word for word, until one day, a young man who hoped to prove his legend came to try his luck in this mall. Sometimes just opening the movie theater's door a little can change Jack's fate forever. It seems like today will be another rainy day. The rain, thunder, lightning, and cold rain fell on the ground in a bad way. The feeling of being both cold and wet like this is really unbearable. The young man looked out the window in boredom. It's been a while since Jack has been stuck in a 2-week loop for more than a month. Although Jack can remember all the rules now, there is no time when Jack can get through it easily. Every time the young man has to crawl to survive in that hellish mall, it's no different from the bad dream that keeps coming up. One of the few things that holds Jack's mind tight and doesn't let it break is the little girl named Rose, who will appear to help Jack every time he suffers something and goes back to that mall every 2 weeks. Although it means that he has to be in a bad dream over and over again, at least Jack still gets to meet and talk to the girl, who may just need someone to talk to. Now it's 9:30 p.m. Jack, who is sleeping, looks at the clock that the chain is slowly moving, along with the red pen that was tied today. It means that at 10 p.m. today, Jack will have to go back to that mall again, but this time it's different. The doll of the old doll of Rose that Jack had placed at the end of the bed began to shake slowly. Before he knew it, the doll had just burned quickly and disappeared in a few seconds. Jack hurriedly got up from the bed and walked in to take a closer look. But now the doll has disappeared without a trace. There is not even a trace of the fire on the table. And what Jack has always wanted to happen has really happened tonight. Jack slept comfortably at his house all night, without having to go into the loop again, before Jack found out later that yesterday the A-Client company had actually decided to demolish the mall to build a new one. Yesterday was the first day they started demolishing the mall. The first part of the mall that was demolished was the movie theater. Since that day, Jack has never slept this full before. The boy slowly got up and turned lazy before his eyes fell on a number of hairs. That appeared on the table of the area where the doll of Rose used to be. And since that day, Jack has never met Rose again. The boy can only continue to tell her story. As a legend, when it's time for them to go, they have to go. How are you? For the story that I am telling you today, Jack has been stuck in the loop for 2 weeks. And before he can come out, there must be someone to destroy the mall first. And if there is no one to destroy the mall, Jack will have to be stuck in the loop for a long time. I feel sorry for Jack too, because if I was stuck in there, I wouldn't know what to do either. And the other person I feel sorry for the most is Rose, who wants to surprise her mother's birthday and gets stuck in the mall and loses her life with something that doesn't take her into the movie theater. The hope of the child who wants to surprise his mother's birthday, but doesn't think about it carefully, and returns to do it by force, and now he has to regret it later because of what he chose. If you like this kind of story, or have any comments about this story, you can leave a comment below. And a fun story like this, I would like to thank the author, who has the pen name Zeroth Dark Universe, for writing such a fun story. For me to tell you, if you like the story of this author, you can go to support the author at the link under the description below. To support the author, to produce this fun work for us to read and listen to. And before leaving, if you like this clip, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And what will be the next story about? Stay tuned for this clip. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.